A Deadly Drive. I'm Jason Horton.
I'm Rebecca Lieb.
And this is Ghost Town.
We always talk about all of these cases and having lots of sides to each case and different perspectives on each one. But what we're going to talk about today is particularly disturbing and has lots of angles. And still, people are very evenly split on this person involves guilt or innocence. So today we're talking about Lawrence DeLisle and his death car and all of the things that contributed to the death of 4 children in the DeLisle family. It was just after 9 p.m. on August 3rd, 1989. 28-year-old tire store manager Lawrence J. DeLisle, his wife 32-year-old Suzanne, and their 4 kids, 8-year-old Brian, 4-year-old Catherine, 2-year-old Melissa, and 9-month-old Emily, were inside the DeLisle's Ford LTD station wagon going down Eureka Road in Wyandotte, Michigan. Now, according to a petition vying for DeLisle's innocence, Larry was driving, Larry Lawrence, to price new beds for their 2 daughters. It was a long, hot day, so the DeLisle family stopped to grab some ice cream for everyone. There, Melissa asked if they could go to the river to look at boats, as they had done the night before. As they drove, they saw no boats passing, and Emily was teething. After turning to head home, Sue asked Larry to stop at the corner store so she could buy something for Emily's gums. Exhausted and dehydrated, Larry's leg had been cramping up throughout the day. As they left the store, Larry turned left and his foot hit the accelerator. Panic sets in as Larry steered with his left hand while removing his cramped leg with his right, but the car never slowed. Eventually, the car catapulted into the Detroit River. DeLisle and his wife Suzanne were able to get out of the car through open windows and hit the surface of the water, surviving the crash. They were rescued by 2 men in a small powerboat who threw them life preservers. Their 4 children, however, were pulled from the water alive, but all 4 died within 7 hours of the accident at nearby hospitals. DeLisle swore to police he had a leg cramp that forced his foot down on the gas pedal and that the accelerator stuck, causing the vehicle to careen down the street and into the river. But there's so much more to this case than a brutal choice by a bad parent. So the authorities originally believed him and deemed this horrific event an accident. The city rallied around the family, but 1 week later, in a rambling and confused conversation with a police investigator, DeLisle suggested he might have intentionally been trying to kill everyone in that car, including himself. The reasons he gave were 1, the suicide of his father, something few of us have had to endure, and 2, the pressure from work, bills, screaming children and a wife, everyday stressors that maybe many of us had to deal with, and probably wore on him more because he was mentally unwell. But let's take a little break. Many things to consider here. First, let's talk about the car's history. So DeLisle's father had actually committed suicide in that very vehicle less than 2 years before. There were still bloodstains from the shooting inside of the car that night that the children drowned. Secondly, it made sense. If he felt trapped in his home life and the situation that he was in, that's not an uncommon thing in cases like this to commit familicide. The police didn't buy his leg cramp stuck accelerator story. Investigators questioned DeLisle, gave him a lengthy lie detector test, and claimed they had gotten an official confession from him. Several days after the drownings, DeLisle was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of his children and 1 count of attempting to murder his wife. Some other reasons support this. By this, I mean that DeLisle was intentionally killing or trying to kill his family. DeLisle and his wife immediately expressed that they wanted to leave for a Florida vacation when they were released from the hospital, which is, can you imagine, absolutely insane. When DeLisle was in the hospital, nothing was found wrong with his leg, and a mechanical appraisal of the car found nothing amiss there either. Before the case went to trial the following June, the DeLisles were stalked, harassed, and targeted by press and the people around the world after this came out. They were murderers, they were unwell, they became a target. At the trial, Wayne County prosecutor Kevin Samowski argued that DeLisle was a troubled man, drowning in debt, feeling burdened by life and his wife and kids. Samowski argued that DeLisle deliberately planned the crash and fully intended to die along with the rest of his family that August night. Some thought his wife, Suzanne, was in on it. But Suzanne's story was a little bit different. She explained the fact that she survived by saying she was in pitch black when she got out of the car and thought if she could get out of the water, she could get help for her family. Eyewitnesses said that she reached the surface of the water screaming for her children. Her husband emerged without a word. Defense attorney Frank Eman claimed that the car was defective and that DeLisle was absolutely not guilty. Eman also told reporters that the only reason DeLisle confessed to the crime was because police wore him down with a 12-hour interrogation with no attorney present and basically brainwashed him and gave him, quote, kind of a nervous breakdown. Lawrence DeLisle already had issues, he said. He was already unwell. He was easy to break down if need be. He had, according to Eman, once tried to set their house on fire. Eman also says DeLisle was brainwashed into confession by hypnotic technique during the questioning. I couldn't find any further information on that, but sounds pretty scary. He argued that DeLisle could not possibly get a fair trial in the Metro Detroit because sensational media coverage by reporters stalking the DeLisle family would make that impossible. They wanted desperately to move the case out of town, but the judge would not let them. The trial lasted 8 days in downtown Detroit with more than 24 witnesses called to testify. The jury deliberated almost 9 hours over 2.5 days. The jury found DeLisle guilty on all counts. After the verdict was said, DeLisle and his wife Suzanne both wept. There's pictures of them. They look very distraught. Numerous appeals were filed. Attorneys claimed that the jury was poisoned by pretrial publicity about the confession, and the case should have been moved. The case went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, who refused to hear it. Lawrence Larry DeLisle is doing life in prison with no chance of parole in Coldwater, Michigan. In 2014, he sent a letter to CBS Detroit saying that he maintains his innocence. Suzanne, Sue DeLisle, initially supported her husband, siding with his tale of the faulty car. But then she filed for divorce a couple years later, and they are not in contact. Now, DeLisle sent this letter to CBS News. It's long, it's rambling, it talks about how he set his wife free, and there's many things that, again, incriminate him completely, and other things that people stand by that he is innocent, that he would have not done this. It kind of reminds me of the McDonald case in Fatal Vision, where someone who's so a part of this community that people really love, that they believe, and maybe that they already have a proclivity towards not trusting police and the process of interrogation might latch onto. But again, I found so many things with so many divided opinions on this case, including a series on Netflix profiled it a little bit, and many people on the Reddit threads said that they thought he was completely innocent. But again, when I read it, I think guilty. It's all the information that you have, and it's all the information that we are compiling for you, and you get to make your own decision. But it's very crazy how this is so evenly divided between innocence and guilt.
Based on the information you gave, I don't see how people could say this person is innocent. Now, I think there's maybe a gray area in, what he may have wanted to do. Maybe it's an impulse thing where it's not premeditated. Like, this is the time I'm going to go and we're going to drive. I know we'll be by the boats and by the water and I'm going to do this. It could be a snap thing. Maybe, where people snap. So I think it depends on what the intentions are. It's like, it's premeditated murder.
Yeah.
Or is it planned? Is it not planned? I don't know. And, you mentioned it, but it really seemed like they both got out of there pretty easy and not in a long amount of time, and easier said than done, trying to grab one kid. It's four there and there's two of you.
Yeah.
What are the chances of you getting one of those kids? I think it's more than 1%.
Yeah.
I understand, like, if a house is on fire where you're like, listen, I could go run and try to save one, but I could burn two, so it's better that I try to get some help. I don't see how getting there, getting help, unless they think people are just going to be there ready to and have the ability to save children from inside a car. That doesn't make any sense, where it was like, that's what my plan was. That's why I left them there. Again, easier said than done. My initial thing was like, oh, this is both their deal. Like, they're both. And then when you said, oh, well, hey, how long is this going to take? We're supposed to go to Florida and it's non-refundable tickets. Rude, you know, of you keeping us there. But then all the other things like, oh, it's a car that is the proclivity to commit suicide. Is it generational? Is it something that is passed down? I don't know.
Yeah.
I took a few community college credits in psychology, so I'm not equipped to talk about that. And the fact that he tried to burn their house down. Yeah. I think anywhere else you take all those things and then you say, P.S., my leg got a cramp. I mean, I don't know if there was a gun. It's like my hand got a cramp in the shape of a trigger, and I grabbed a gun and it just started cramping. And I pulled the trigger and my shoulder cramped. And then, I mean, how much cramping goes on? But I'd be curious is like, how many cases have there been where somebody had a leg cramp and got into a car accident? Tell me how many there are. If it's 0, then
you're busted, dude.
It seems like a bit far-fetched. Is it possible? Sure, but it just seems like the reason that we think he's innocent, the proof of that is cops kept him there a long time. And I'm not one to, side with police. Also, he said that he didn't do it on purpose. That's it. It said I didn't.
Yeah.
There's no other thing beside those things. So, but you have all those other things that should make it really easy. And it's like, you're not going to get a fair trial. Don't have a life that makes you seem like somebody who would do this then.
Yeah.
If you don't want something to happen that seems like you did it to come back. And that doesn't mean if you had a tough life and you do something that means you did it. Absolutely not. And, did he plan on, the thing is, when you think about guilt, it's like, oh, this guy was looking for an opportunity to do that. Maybe not. Maybe it was a snap thing. It could be a lot of things going on in his mind. But I don't know. I feel like his wife is maybe just in shock. And, you don't know. But I feel like, did she feel a burden of having those kids? I mean, I'm sure you can examine both their lives, ask friends and family, like, hey, what were they like? And that's also not an indicator, but it
might be helpful to give us more of the story.
Yeah, I don't know who those people are. I don't know them personally. Maybe you talk to them and you'd be like, these kind of people seem like they want to start over. Not the first time it happens.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about cases like that for sure. I think it's, whether she was in on it, didn't know anything about it, like there's some red flags already here where it's like, we have to address these things that I'm sure she saw, that he saw. I mean, if he set the house on fire at a certain point, it's like, let's get this guy to a professional. Let's make sure these children are safe.
I bet if you said, hey, listen, I'm not going to tell you who this person is. I'm going to list all these things. Tell me what you think. I bet the people that say that he's innocent, that don't know him, would be like, oh, this is probably a guilty person. P.S. It's your neighbor.
Your friend.
Oh, no. Well, hold on. I changed my mind.
Exactly.
I think that's, you want to believe the people you like, and I totally get that. And I might do the same thing too. But
yeah. But
you haven't given me anything to say that, oh, well, that is kind of interesting. Nothing. I haven't heard one thing other than he said, no, I didn't. That is compelling to me.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's okay. I think it was also profiled, like I said, on a Netflix true crime series back in 2015, where it was kind of making a murderer style, where I think if we saw the things, I forget because that felt like ages ago, but we see all these things that made this guy innocent or guilty, and it created a spin of innocence on it too, which again kind of plugged his mental instability, probably plugged the cops keeping there for 12 hours and abusing him or something like that, and who knows. But it just goes to show, like, cases like this can really be spun in such different ways. And even the GoFundMe, which again is still up, you can check it out, giving a totally different framework than, what you think, or maybe how I think that this person should be treated, or, how this looks to me.
It's like, how could I do this? I'm mentally unwell and I tried to burn down my house. Why would I? Those things to me aren't like proofs of innocence.
Yeah.
It seems like somebody that would do that. And again, like I say, like it could have been just a thing where you just snap, people do things all the time where they like, throw something on the ground. And I didn't plan on like, oh, in 2 weeks, I can't wait to throw this thing on the ground because I'm mad.
Yeah.
It could be a case like that where I don't necessarily believe that he planned on doing it, but I feel like the fact that he went to jail for any length of time I don't see any way that isn't a fair and just thing at the bare minimum.
Yeah. I mean, he's already been found guilty, but he is now also guilty by ghost town.